Hello, everyone. So here is Moonlight Soul and my co-host Marisa from Growing the Flow, and we're going to be chatting about the upcoming, well, multiple things, Uranus-Jupiter conjunction plus the full moon in Scorpio, which is taking place next week. So hello, Marisa. Nice to see you again.
Hello. Good to see you too.
Yeah, and like we've been saying, there are a lot of disruption going on around us. So expect the
Yes, we are
unexpected.
here. Expect the unexpected. That's our motto these days. Post eclipse, digesting it all, and getting ready to bring in the next 2.0, right?
Yes, because this is the episode 20th. So we start in the new 10, the 2.0.
Yep, we're into the next 2.0 of stars and cards. So yes, if we have disruptions, it's all a part of the flow. So we go with it.
Yeah, I mean, there are some construction works going on around me and on the top of my head. So it is what it is. It's definitely the Uranus. Things are not always going to work out the way we want them to, but it's just happening as it needs to, I suppose.
Yeah, but like speaking of it going on over your head, I mean, we've been talking about just the rapid fire, just things popping in the crown with all of this that's been coming in, these downloads, and just ever since the eclipse, it's been wild. So I think it's actually quite symbolic, of this notion that, there's a lot that's opening up and there's a lot that's pulling for our attention, that it can feel like you're spread all over and we're jumping from topic to topic, or just like this thing's firing off, and trying to stay again focused and just streamline everything and trust that it's all being downloaded, it's all being seeded. And this is something I know I was telling you about for me, like feeling like it's not front of mind. I can't quite hold on to it because there's so many other distractions and things that are vying for my attention, that speaks to me that would be going on over your head, because it's a lot just pulling us in there.
It is definitely. And I mean, today, as we recording this, we are experiencing the Venus North Node conjunction, and North Node also has like a little bit of an unpredictable energy because it's like the future, it's like where we're heading, and it's in Aries, and it's this new direction, and Mars is still in Pisces, as we know, until the end of the month. So it's like, yeah, all the energy of the cosmos is becoming available to us, but not always in an ordeal, linear, comfortable way, like as we human, like, okay, I'll get a little bit of that today, but the rest of it, no, I don't want to deal with that. But it's like, bam, like when people channel and we channel, it's like this big cloud of energy that comes to you. It's not like coming in this, linear way. It's like, it's a very different energy we're dealing with here. And like I said, this is all like, we are only 3 days away from this Uranus Jupiter conjunction. So yeah, it is all in alignment with where we head in Aquarian age.
Yeah, and what's that, on the 20th, right? So we're here on our episode 20 talking about this big conjunction happening on the 20th. So that's interesting too.
Yeah, which is the precursor to the full moon in Scorpio. And full moon in Scorpio is illuminating to us whatever got seeded last fall during the eclipse season, because as I was telling you, that actually the new moon in Scorpio was the first lunation after the eclipses in fall. We had the new moon in Libra, solar eclipse, and the last full moon in Taurus, lunar eclipse. And now we've just had the eclipses, and again, Scorpio is the first one in, like, okay, well, let me show you what this was about, right? Right after the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, and right before we have the Mars and Neptune conjunction at the end of the month, which is Mars, the rule of the North Node. Neptune is the closing of the old cycles. So there are all these things, which is what I was saying to you, that the chart hasn't changed very much, apart from the fact that by the point of this moon, and actually even the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, we are already in Taurus season. But apart from that, the only thing that really changed is the stage of the cycle. So all these planets meeting, conjuncting, it's closing a cycle and starting a new one. So that's what changed. And I feel with this Scorpio full moon, because it is about self-empowerment, it is about Pluto, and Pluto now being Aquarius. So I guess it's literally what you just said. We need to learn to step into our power, regardless of what's going on outside of us, regardless the noise, regardless the distraction, regardless that it doesn't look the good old Taurus ordeal, comfortable way. we still have to do it anyway. Resiliency, right? The Scorpio.
Yeah, and the idea that even things we were talking about before too, that when we get really set on a certain perspective or frame of mind that we're looking at something, sure enough, that ends up taking us on that trajectory. So if we go into it like, oh, every time I try to plan this and I think it's going to be quiet or peaceful or this always happens, you know, well, cue the universe showing you exactly that. So it's like, your perspective is everything. Once again, it's like as much of an objective perspective that you can hold when you're experiencing those things. That's why I like the curious mind of like, well, what is this telling me, you know? And even if, you know, I remember when I would do readings in a different room in my house and I was facing out front, and it never failed. It was trash day. It was the day that they come through and pick up the trash cans down the street. And they're very loud and they have this automated process of like hooking into the trash can. So there's all this banging around and noise, but it never failed. In the course of the reading, it would talk about, you know, releasing the excess or taking out the trash, or, you know, one day they were actually resurfacing the street, which was like having to peel off that top layer and rake through everything that comes up, and then they come back over it, and then they have to stamp it down and smooth it out. And so there's this analogy that you can dig into there and use it, you know, use that to help springboard your mind into, don't get caught in, okay, fine, it's trash day. Like, it's not magic. It's trash day. The trash truck's going to come. Okay. But if I sit with that and if I look at that energy, it inspires me. It kind of helps to fire off other ideas in my mind. It's just like looking at a card. I pull up the card and there's symbols on that. And that gets me thinking like, oh, it's a snake. But, you know, the snake sheds its skin. So there's something that needs to transform, you know, and you go from there. So let the day to day inspire you. Let what's happening around you inform, you know, how you are interpreting the energies that you're in.
Yeah, so, and I feel that it's quite like interesting that, you know, we're talking about like trash and like dispelling thing, because that's Scorpio, like getting rid of the toxins, you know, getting rid of the things that make us feel disempowered, you know, the whole process of getting rid of stuff from your body. It's not always a pleasant one, you know, it's like whatever is coming out, you know, it needs to be released, right? And also because Mars is, as a traditional rule of Scorpio, it's still in Pisces, and it is about what are we releasing. And I know you and I, we were discussing this quite in depth about, oh, we need to make space, we need to get rid of some stuff, you know, to create the room for new things to come in. Like maybe we have too much around us, you know, too much Taurus, too much stuff. So I feel that really it is all symbolic.
Yeah. And that's actually really, really neat, because it's thinking like, yeah, so we bring our Taurus in here with all of our stuff and all of our, you know, safety, security, and our things. But then Scorpio full moon is like illuminating the notion that there's stuff that needs to be shed and released and excreted, if we will, so that we can, you know, create space for the new. And yeah, so. Ooh, now I see, like I told you, I didn't know much yet about this moon. Like I hadn't really felt into it yet. And this is really inspiring me. Now I'm super curious what's going to come up in our Queen of the Moon poll, because, and I know, I was gonna say, I know it's on the bottom, because when I picked up the deck, I saw like this card, which is like literally what we're describing. Like it's coming in here, but we're like, yeah, pushing it away, you know.
It's too much disruption. It's not comfortable. It's not Taurus. I don't want it, you know.
Yeah.
But it is about the snake, you know, like you said, it's about the stripping on the layers of the old skin that doesn't fit anymore, because now we are in all this new phase conjunction, you know, like we had the eclipse in Aries, new phase conjunction to North Node. Now Venus is in a new phase conjunction to North Node. By the time of the moon, she will be in a new phase conjunction with Chiron, the wound. I know that we like talking about the Chiron over here. Yeah. So yeah, you know, so what are we letting go? What are we stripping off?
And as you say that, I'm reminded that for the collective card pull this week, we got death as our potential blocker challenge, which always, you know, bringing in the Scorpio vibes. And also, you know, my two phrases I would always use with that card is picked clean to the bone. You know, that's that skeleton that's riding through change, riding through that transformation, but it's literally stripping away all of that excess, what's not coming with me into the new, and then shedding the skins of the soul. So bridging together the chiron and the energy of the wounds and things that have been coming up to the surface, but shedding those things and releasing them because they're not coming with us. And I was going to say, there's an interesting little fun fact about the death card that I never realized, was that in the distance of the traditional death card is actually the moon, the scene that you see on the moon card. And so this deck that I'm using, and it's right here, so I'll just show you guys, you can see that pretty clearly because they added in the signature dog and wolf that you would traditionally see on the moon card. So I think it's really interesting that this scorpionic energy coming in here, stripping away and picking clean to the bone, and really being getting clear about what we're carrying with us into the new, is heading towards the moon. And that's, you know, what we're feeling into. But this is a potential block or challenge this week.
What do we not want to release?
Right. What are we not wanting to release, or what is feeling hard about this change, or really just actually even more so, we know the answer to this, so we sort of backed into it. It's a challenge because I don't like the noise. I don't want all the disruption. So it's irritating. Like, and I always think of the, you know, the butterfly metamorphosis process. And when you're in the death stage, it's like in the cocoon, turning to mush, having to, you know, completely change form, and thinking that that caterpillar, that larva, doesn't know that it's going to become the butterfly on the other side. So when you're in that ick, that's the point where it can be challenging. We'll just use that one word to describe all the different things that you might be feeling and experiencing through that death process. So
it is about trust. And it's so funny because, you know, with the, when you were talking about the death as a Scorpio card, I was thinking like, yeah, of course, because it's like the judgment is Pluto, you know, it's like you've been stripped of the bone and then you just come out, you know, of this, like it's the judgment, it's the moment of the complete clearing of the decks, right? And the moon represents Neptune, and Mars is still in Pisces. It's just about to have a conjunction with Neptune on 28th of April 28th. So this is literally it. Like, yes, like, you know, like just like you were saying, we don't like the noise, but the new Earth is not gonna just happen. We need to build it. So there is a lot of noise and distraction and scaffolding and, you know, all these repairs going on at the same time. And it's like the birth, right? It's gonna be a messy process. So like it or not, the Taurus here, you know, like it or not, it is happening, and you just have to flow with it.
Yeah. All right, well, the fear card just jumped out and winked at us. So let's see what's officially coming forward here. Full moon in Scorpio. Queen of the Moon, overarching energy.
Oh my God, this card keeps coming up. Fruition.
Fruition, and it's card 37.
Endings.
Endings, new beginnings. And is there, this one doesn't have a snake in her thing. That's the other card. Let me see. No, it's just a lot of fruit and abundance, and I see birds and things coming to fruition.
And it's a full moon.
And it's a full moon. It's the harvest moon by the card. So again, it's interesting that we went back to fall, right? So we're talking, you mentioned the new moon in Scorpio, right?
Yeah, in November.
And I was going to ask you, so, you know, that would mean that perhaps we're going to see things from seeded at that time coming into fruition with this full moon, or getting clarity around those things perhaps that are coming into. And it's interesting too with the mask, you know, things that again we're maybe not seeing directly, but it's all on the crown. Yeah, because it's like, that's how I feel, like all these like neurons firing off. It's like all this fruit, all this potential, you know, but it's like what to pick first, and you know, all that energy that's coming in. Yeah. Wow. So you've been seeing this card? I hadn't seen this card in a minute.
This card has been coming up for me every time. I'm like, I think I pulled it for myself for the solar eclipse. Like I see it all the time.
Yeah, there are a lot of birds around the head too. So that, you know, thinking of that as the as messenger energy, or again, things coming in, you know, clarity, awarenesses, information, you know, all of this is just lighting up all over the crown, like coming into fruition. And these are seeds that were planted, you know. Wow, I'm gonna see what the mantra is for this one.
I'm also thinking like what you just said, like what has become illuminated to us that got seeded in fall. And I mean, since fall we had the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra, and we realized, like, I feel for many people this, what is actually out of balance, what is disrupted, also looking at the state of the world and how things developed since October, November, like how they just escalated. People see more and more the imbalance, more and more like, okay, well, the fruition is not right ahead. It's going to come from a different place because there are changes that need to take place. So I feel what became really illuminated to us, it's even stronger awareness of what is out of balance, what is now obsolete, that is just doesn't really work and resonates with us anymore, and where our sense of power or disempowerment lies. So what needs to be kind of brought back to balance because it's an opposition.
Yeah, and just becoming hyper aware of that for sure, as it's coming in. And it feels like, I almost feel like, I don't know, I need like to be reminded because so much has come to pass since then. I can't even say off the top of my head what was happening then, but that's okay because it's all been working under the surface. And now as it comes into fruition, it seems like we can kind of take our pick there. So the mantra here says, I welcome the joyous fruition of all the intentions I set. But there's a little note at the end about, you know, this is all about getting ready to celebrate, you know, the seeds that you've planted and the crops coming into harvest and such. But there is a note about these times of high energy are also times to really focus on your body, as they can be quite taxing on our systems. If we don't take care, it is often the time we can get ill. So it is about Taurus telling us, so we're in the body and clearing and taking care and really recognizing what needs to be shed or released or, you know, detoxed in order to really receive this bounty that's coming in.
And this is so interesting because, of course, this full moon in Scorpio is happening right after, 3 days after the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in Taurus. So Jupiter is already in a new phase conjunction by this stage. And like I said, Venus also, right after the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, is conjuncting Chiron. So also Venus is in a new phase conjunction as of today with North Node and Chiron by the time we have in this full moon in Scorpio ruled by Mars in Pisces. So it is so clear how we are, in a sense, pushed, kicking or screaming or go volunteering, that there is this necessity for this new cycle to begin with regards to what can we now see a totality of manifestation of that is the result of the past cycles, you know, the Pisces age, you know, all the choices, thoughts and beliefs that we had thought and believed before are in a full manifestation now. So with these new cycles, right at the time of this full moon in Scorpio, which is illuminating all of that, I feel that, you know, this is like, yes, all these things are coming to fruition, and we might just be thinking about, oh yeah, there is this thing to celebrate, right? But it is to celebrate, but might not look the way we think, you know. From the spiritual perspective, it's like, yeah, this is something to celebrate because, like, you know, like Lee Harris keeps saying, like we keep repeating, if you catch yourself, celebrate. You know, like when you do something that you do repeatedly and you catch yourself doing that, rather than judge and criticize yourself, celebrate that you've noticed. So this is what I feel this fruition is, in a sense, for me at least, indicating to a certain extent. Now you can see, now you are aware, now you understand. So celebrate doesn't mean that it's all sorted, but celebrate that you've noticed so you can actually change it. Because unless we are aware of something, we cannot change it, because it's all happening in subconscious, Scorpio, in the deep waters, right? But it also is to do with this Taurus, which is the video that I just recorded with Lada about Taurus, Uranus, Jupiter conjunction, how important it is to reclaim our connection to our body, to our connection to our spirit, and take care of ourselves. Because if we don't, then how are we going to change this world? How are we going to make the world a better place? It needs to start from each and every single one of us. So there is so much depth, Scorpio,
Yeah.
in how we can interpret this illustration.
Yeah, because I also hear, as you were saying that, like you know, we reap what we sow. So it's like, you know, when something comes to fruition and it's actually not something that we're happy about, you can typically trace that back and say, well, you know, I mean, like this is so silly and such a practical example, but like, you know, I have 4 kids. I'm doing laundry in this house for 6 people. So it's endless. Okay, let's just leave it there. It's endless. But you know, we have found that laying out clothing the night before makes for a much smoother morning, right? But when we don't do that, when we get behind, and so, you know, we sow seeds of pushing it off, leaving it in the basket, not, you know, not getting to bed on time, whatever these habits are, we inevitably reap a busy, hectic morning where we're searching for things and we can't find stuff. You know, on the flip side, when we plan ahead and say, okay, you know, tomorrow's pajama day, so we got to make sure we lay out what, you know, then it's smooth as silk and it's like, woo, that was so easy. So it comes to fruition. And again, when you have that hindsight of seeing exactly how that thing came to be, rather than judging ourselves or criticizing or marking it as a failure, it's actually quite a practical unfolding of events, you know, A to B to C, like not preparing or not doing the thing equals chaos. You know, doing these things equals smooth sailing, you know, whatever it is. So it's like, yeah, things coming to fruition, coming to a completion, ending, to prepare for a new beginning. It's all just you know, again, if we have a way of viewing that from just more of an observant point of view, and then, you know, using that, taking from it, what can I learn from this then? So yeah, celebrate that, because now I'm gathering this information. And if the information is, yeah, I know because I do this all the time and this always happens, spinning my wheels, well, then why is that? And that gives me an opportunity to look at, you know, whatever this other thing that I want to have come into fruition, is that really what I want? You know, why am I choosing not to do A and B for C or whatever it is? And so it just can help to sort of examine and maybe go deeper to uncovering, you know, how we're reaping what we sow.
Yeah, and it's a full moon, so we can see it very clearly now.
Yeah, it's all coming out. So I guess let's get our tarot cards up here so we can add them into the conversation. So with careful thought, we decided
The banging. The universe is saying, yes, do you get it? You know, banging it into your head.
Yeah. Again, speaking of bottom cards, I said to you, like, I already know what's on the bottom. And it's funny because you said about the Queen of the Moon kicking and screaming. That change card is my kicking and screaming, like trying to push that new egg away. This one with the choose wisely, like this notion of like, I gotta pick and I don't want to be wrong. You know,
Well,
that
Jupiter is gonna move into Gemini at the end of next month, so we have to choose. We have no other choice than to choose. We have to choose. No choice is a choice.
Yeah, it's no matter what, you're making a choice.
Exactly.
One way or another. So we'll do our 3 cards because then we're going to do a little oracle card on the end, right? So tapping in here, see what comes forward to know.
Choose wisely.
I know, isn't that funny? All right, we've got the cards.
3 of Swords.
Right? So that's called heartache and loss. So that's to know, and then to do around this full moon in Scorpio. Ooh, we got a chakra card. The green was coming in one way or another, right? We were debating between the green or the blue.
And the number 4.
And the number 4. I'm going to pick a clarifying card with this, but I know it brings us into the 4 and the heart chakra green. What do we need to know about that? 2 of Pentacles. Okay.
There is a choice.
There is a choice. Leave them together, and then we'll pull our B card to be. Nine of Swords.
5.
Five of Swords, conflict
Oh
and
my God, but we literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because the 3, 7 is 10, which is 1. And then we have the 2, 3, 4 is the heart chakra, and now 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wow. So it really is sequential, even if it doesn't feel that way. See, I was saying like how I was feeling this one, it's like we want it to come in a particular order and it feels very chaotic, or it feels like I don't know where to focus next, but actually it's unfolding in order, in perfect divine order, if we will, moving through. Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So 3 of Swords, 2 of Pentacles, and 5 of Swords, right? Wow. Okay. I feel like, again, the 3 of Swords with heartache and loss, but it makes us very aware of the heart, because that's really what we're being pulled into. And, you know, traditionally we see this with the 3 swords piercing the heart, and the notion that the swords represent the head, the crown, the thoughts, the beliefs, the ideas, you know, all of this cerebral stuff. Piercing the heart is this connection between the two, and the idea that, you know, through some of that heartache and loss, or the things that we are mourning, that maybe the bittersweetness of endings and new beginnings, or the notion that some sort of a loss that we've experienced is what it kind of ends up being the thing that spurned this new beginning, and that may be something that we don't see until it comes into fruition. You know, we might not really see that full picture. Often we don't, until we end up in a place where we understand what was it all for, which is funny because that's kind of what this card says.
Yeah, it's like, to me, it's like literally, because the 2 of Pentacles is what came up for Amanda, didn't it? I saw her pulling that card because she was discussing what is in these different doorways. But you know, I felt literally, just before you started saying, I felt exactly the same message, because we are getting the illumination and, like we said, the fruition. But we might think it's like, oh yeah, let's go celebrate, right? But just like we said, celebrate, because now you know, now you see, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a party, you know? So it literally is that the world we are experiencing right now, whether it's the individual collective experience, but of course one impacts the other and the other impacts the one, right? Like, it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. And, you know, the illumination of all of this is, well, fruition. Yeah, like, what do we know now that we didn't know before? So let's celebrate. So the 3 of Swords, it literally, this is exactly the same message that came to me, that yes, we are getting our hearts broken, so they get open. So we get to choose something different. You know, the 2 of Pentacles, the guy juggling the 2 pentacles, you know, and that's the earth element. So how do we choose to experience the life on this planet from now on, the earth? And there are, yeah, these all different doorways holding different potential in them.
That really gives me goosebumps, because it really does bring it into the collective message of, like, as we pick clean to the bone, as we strip away the skins of the soul, it may reveal, it is revealing things that are heartbreaking and are not easy to look at, and certainly not to feel. So feel, you know, like this is the head and the heart coming together here in a way that, you know, is messy. It's messy, you know, it's all the cards that we've mentioned were mentioned for a reason, whether it be the Death card. Choose wisely is the 7 of Cups. And there is a sense of, again, I don't like the notion of it being a warning, but when you say be careful what you wish for, you're saying, I just want to know, I want to see the truth, and I want to be clear, and I want to know. Well, when that curtain pulls back and we see what's there, it may not be all that you envisioned it to be. And so there's going to be some rotten fruit that's coming to a head here that we are experiencing. And so, you know, this is the action here. This energy is like, this was to know, this is to do, and this is how to be. So feeling like this feels like the brightest silver lining, which there is a silver lining in the 3 of Swords, you know, and the notion that after the storm comes the rainbow, and that storms serve. you know, that the storm serves, the things that are being cut away or pierced or, you know, brought out into the light, helps to move, you know, these things so that we can create from a new place. You know, it's literally the same thing we're saying as far as getting rid of excess within our own bodies, or with it's just the micro macrocosm of, you know, shedding and releasing and clearing in your space within your body is showing us this wider message of the earth and the collective, and how, you know, we're at this point here where what this card is saying is movement, choices, and decisions. You know, and sort of coming up to this now that we can see things plain and bare and out in the open, now we get to really decide, make a choice where to from here, where are we moving to from here. And yeah, this card does have some interesting symbolism that I think is really up to interpretation, because sometimes I would see those as the elements. I've seen those colors as chakra, you know, energies, or feeling like too the symbols that you see in the windows, like the golden rings, you know, as far as, you know, and it's in the red window that we see 2 gold bands. And, you know, so you can kind of really dig in here to the different areas of life that we're looking at this point, and, you know, mulling over these decisions, which, like you say, like the juggling, it's bringing through that same message of, you know, those two, and again, head and heart, you know, the ethereal, and then like this idea of like what we can feel as being real, you know, a tangible material. And having this choice, you know, this point where there's movement and decisions that are coming to fruition.
Yeah, and it's literally what I was saying. Whether we want to or not, we will have to make a choice. Because once Jupiter go into Gemini, and that's a precursor to Uranus going into Gemini, and Uranus doesn't pussyfoot around. You know, Jupiter is still technically like not as personal as Mercury, Venus, and Mars, but still quite close to Earth. Uranus doesn't care. Uranus is gonna go, well, you had time to prepare. You didn't learn your lesson, Jupiter, based on the story. That's it. So it literally is, I feel like this is gonna be a gentler push. But once Uranus moves into Gemini next year, and I mean, it's going to still go back into Taurus, but from 2026 onwards, it's going to be there until the end of this decade, right? And Pluto is in Aquarius, and we know that the other side of Aquarius can be detachment, cold, you know, not really thinking like, you know. So anyway, it's very interesting that you were talking about the death card, because this card for me always, when I look at it, I always see the angel of death. That's literally what this card looks like to me. The 3 of Swords, like for me, that always was. But as we can see, the green, which is all this healing, which is available to humanity. So it's all this death and destruction, whether it's metaphorical, physical, or whichever way, because yes, metamorphosis, you know, caterpillar dies. It technically dies. It becomes something completely different. It's not the same animal. It's not the same species. This is literally what we're going through as a humanity, that there are aspects of us, of our all identities. And that's like what I was talking about in my video with Lada, that the last time Jupiter and Uranus had a conjunction in 2011, the South Node was in Cancer. Cancer as the crab, you know, and Cancer is ruled by Moon, which is moving all the time, right? We know the Moon goes around the entire zodiac in 28.5 days every month. It touches everything, but it's about our identity. It's about our ancestor line. It's about our heritage. So I really feel that this angel is bringing this message that it's time to let some of that rest in peace. You know, we need to let it go. Like these old stories that are perpetuating the suffering, division, wars, they are based on stories, you know, but they're not our stories. We outgrown these stories. And as you and I keep saying all the time, with you have to feel it to heal it. So how else would we come to the point of healing if we wouldn't feel it? So that's, I really feel like, you know, and I remember when Amanda was making her last video, which you and I both shared because it was so profound, the messages in it, she said that Archangel Metatron was solemn. And that's literally what I'm feeling right now, looking at these cards, looking at that angel. Yeah, it's solemn. It's not always funny, you know, it's not always like, yes, the spirit has a great sense of humor, but sometimes we have to roll up the sleeves and do the dirty work that needs to be done. And that's what I feel, that this Scorpio full moon with the situation we've got going on in the world right now, this is some serious stuff that we're dealing with as a humanity at this time, with all the weaponry that is available to us that can create literally the complete execution of this planet and all life force on it, which of course we know is not going to happen, but it is possible, right? So this is why we have to make a different choice. And the choice that we have to make has to come from the heart place, and understanding that if I hurt you, I'm hurting me at the same time, because we are all connected and we can see it. We can see it, like how suffering in one part of the world is affecting everyone else, whether they are having the same experience or not. So I really feel that these cards really are like a wake up, is really happening, you know. But I really feel that there is, like you said with the Two of Pentacles, like it does open a door to this brand new life, to this brand new world, which we all want to experience. But in order to get there, we need to see the result of everything that came before to learn. So we make a different choice next time.
Yeah. And it, you know, carrying all of that awareness is heavy on the head, you know, it is. And like, you know, we've come full circle to these things banging over your head and just being like this drum of like, you know, a distraction that pulls you away from like really being able to stay focused and clear on the decisions that we're making. So it's like having the awareness of, and, you know, to say that, oh, of course, that's not going to happen. That's an understanding that you have, or that I have, but maybe someone else doesn't have. So they're actually very much hearing the sound of fear and anxiety and worry and all of those very real things that are happening, that they're experiencing for real, you know, but there's this guidance that's coming in about putting that to rest. And, you know, it's a big shift because we're changing ages. Like we're not just moving from one decade to the next, or just kind of like, oh, okay, you know, this is massive, like putting to rest and embarking on new. And this card couldn't be more perfect because it's conflict and defeat. But the Five of Swords says victory, but at what cost? Is the juice worth the squeeze? That, you know, all this energy that's put into division and war and fighting and winning and power, is it worth it, you know? And there's this exhaustion of running that, and it's beautiful because you can see on the wall of this card, and to me it does bring through ancestral energy and the way that things have been, that like this rat race and this idea that in order to get to the top, no matter who we step on or how we get there, or that it's a very individual thing that is exhausting, and, you know, it stops here. So there's this energy of that happening here, of putting down that sword, of allowing that to rest in peace, to see how it has served, to understand with more compassion and forgiveness, and, you know, again, as detached as one can be, in order to observe something that's beyond comprehension, that you can see how those things have served in order to move humanity to this point. At least that's how we chose to do it, you know, that we chose this path to arrive here in this moment, which is actually something that's exciting and to be celebrated, but not without this solemn nature of acknowledging, you know, what all came to pass in order to get here.
Exactly, like at what cost we got to this point, and are we wanting to pay the same price again? And this is what I mean, that we are seeing the totality of manifestation of everything that came before. And this is why, you know, with the Mars as the ruler of the North Node being in Pisces, there is no coincidence, because Pisces is the endings and it's the Pisces age. So it literally is that, you know, is it worth it? Because we know, I mean, I don't know it personally because I'm not exactly in that position, but most people that got to that position in their life, you know, the wealth, the success, the accolades, the top of the top, it doesn't make them happy. You know, it doesn't make them happy. Majority of people either commit suicide or are on all sorts of substances or whatever to cope with reality, or they use that money to make a difference, you know, whether they build schools or support people or, you know, put money in charity, whatever it is, to because like, what is all that for? Winning at what success? Like, you know, like, I mean, all this power and money and all that, it doesn't make people happy. It makes them more separate, more disconnected, unless, you know, and even the people that say that, you know, these power hungry, you know, traumatized individuals, they're still not happy. It doesn't make them happy, and that's why they want more and more and more, because they think maybe the next thing, it will be the one that will, you know, make them happy or whatever. But this is what it is, you know, like with the Five of Swords, and like you can see that he's like, you know, toppling over and moving away from light, because the further we go from the light, we're not gonna survive, because we are light. You know, it's just like, you know, like I know in some of the channelings that we've been listening to, whether it was Lee or you know, like other people, they saying that the soul like cannot survive, like literally the body cannot survive without the soul, and the soul cannot survive if it's being suppressed, if there is no joy and happiness and connection, because this is who we are. You know, we are light, we are love, we want to connect. That's most people, this is their desire. They just want connection, you know, whether they look for it with people or other things, but they just want to connect, because this is what we remember, being part of the source, that we were connected. So we're looking for it, and, you know, sometimes we're looking for it in dark places, but the further away we move from the light, the less we find it, and the more unhappy we will be. But in order to understand that, we need to experience the dark. So now we are experiencing it, because we need to have the polarity, so then we can move back to the light.
Exactly. You reap what you sow. So, you know, it's a hollow victory. And now we know it, right? Now it's coming into our awareness that after repeating these cycles over and over and over again, and kind of going back over all of the produce that came from that, we are being shown that that's a hollow victory. That's a one-way path, that we know where it leads. We've already spent the time exploring what it is to have that experience. And with that information, we're brought back to the menu to make new choices and new decisions, right? So it is actually, you know, it's beautiful in its totality, because it brings us full circle, and it's the result of what we as a humanity, as a collective, have played out. And so now we come here to this point where it's time to let that rest in peace in order to embrace the new that's coming in.
Yeah, I really feel that that's literally where we at. And, you know, just like with all the noise and, you know, all the distraction, it is going to be a messy process to build in the new, because like, you know, hopefully many people have the understanding that the Pisces age technically has ended, and, you know, like you and I, we were talking about yesterday, and the Aquarius age had begun. It hadn't begun yesterday, or like even in past 10 years, whatever. It's been seeded throughout the last couple of 100 years or 300 years or something, but it technically fully began in the 20th century. But we don't have any, we don't know what it's going to bring, what it's going to be about. You know, this is like what, 25,000 years ago was the last Aquarian age. I mean, who remembers that, right? So we are building a new, but we can see the totality of manifestation of what came before, the Pisces age. And we have plenty of examples, you know, how these things don't work, and how also these things, all the power and the money and all that, didn't make many people happy anyway. If anyone. And in essence, just like you and I were talking, majority of people don't want war. They just want to get on with their life, their business, and then just they want to just have what they need, and they want to be happy, and they want their children to be happy and have better life and all the rest of it. So again, we come back to the same point, how there is much more than unites than separates us. And what really separates us is just the stories.
Yeah. And typically the way that we figure that out, that there's much more that unites us, is through heartache and loss, you know, through experiencing, picked clean to the bone, stripping away all of that excess, hollow victory, juice not worth the squeeze, you know, but it's not to negate the experience, to say that, oh, well, that was all for nothing. What have we been doing for the last, several thousand years? Like it actually all unfolds in a way that ends up bringing forward, the fertile soil that we now have to build on. So, it's simplified into these 5 cards, but it really is very symbolic of what's possible and where, I don't know. I'm on the fence. Like, do we get one more tarot card or do we want the
Whether we
oracle?
get the 6 to create the balance.
I just want, like, I want some higher, the highest and best timeline that's available to us, that
Yeah.
guidance from that soul perspective to
Yeah.
understand, like, this has us down on the ground, sort of going through all of the, like, all that's come to pass. But what would from a soul perspective,
What is the potential for the future?
the potential for the future and the highest and best. Oh, I wanted to spray because the sapphire energy was jumping out. This is the Sapphire Divine Peace healing energy spray that I've had on repeat here. Just spraying out this vibration of peace. And I feel that it's matchy calling to me to bring that in. So let's see.
And that's also like what you were saying about it was not for nothing, because this is where we go back to the Pisces. What was the meaning? This is what I keep repeating in my videos for the past few weeks, what's been coming to me and through me. We need to understand the meaning, because if we don't understand the meaning, we cannot close the cycle. The cycle cannot end unless we understand what it was all about. So if we just judge and criticize it and feel victimized by it, then we haven't learned the lesson. We'll have to repeat it. So what was the meaning? And also the human collective consciousness wasn't where it is now 500 years ago. People actually thought that, hanging someone on the front of the village was an entertainment, because the human consciousness wasn't where it is now. So it held the meaning back then, even though now we look back at history and think how barbaric, how could have people done that? Well, that's where they were at. And it helped us to get where we are now.
Mm-hmm. What just flipped over is the Harmony card.
Oh, there you go.
Well, that's perfect. So
and
we'll
it's the
take
number 6.
It's the number 6. It's the Lover's card, which is about bringing heaven to earth, which is about duality and the choice to, in this garden, right? And this understanding of it's already here, it being what we make it and so much more. But there is this divine masculine, divine feminine energy that's coming in here to harmonize what has been out of balance. And, it really does give us that message of the choice is ours, like the belief that it is some Garden of Eden that's out there for us to earn our way into, or to, to seek out, or do we see where we are right here and now and what's available to us to build on right here and to create? What can we create? Because we've seen all the things that our, collective consciousness has created over all this time, to the extent that it was able in the time, as you were just saying, that now we have the gift of this expansion, this awareness, the fruition that's coming in and opening up new pathways that we never had before. So it's actually like this, it's really exciting, because how could we have created that before? We didn't have the material. We didn't have it. Now it's come into fruition. But we wouldn't have what's coming in now had it not been for, and like as you were just describing about our ancestors, it's reminding me of a project that's been sitting dormant for me, that's been winking at me, of a guided meditation visualization that is all about harvesting the gifts of our ancestors and taking us through these different points in time and acknowledging, yes, all of that, all of the ugly, dark energy that existed there, but also mining, again, the gold, the light, and extracting from it, what was the gift in all of that, and carrying that forward with us. And that's what the Death card is showing us as well. And that is challenging. That's the thing. It's coming up this week, collectively building up to all of this energy that's coming in, because it's hard, it's messy, it's all the things. But it's what is necessary to experience the extremes in order to bring it back into balance, into harmony here.
And it's just literally when you were talking about the ancestors, I just got this like, like this strong feeling in my heart, in my chest, because they all done it for us. They all done it for us. Because every single generation keeps going and sacrificing and pushing through for their children. And they do it for their children and their children and their children. So even though it might be 2000 years later, they did it for us. So we could have a better life. So this is like when we even say about the ancestor, healing that needs to take place. But it's not just the, it's all the wounds and all the pain and all the sacrifice they went through, not knowing any better. They thought there was the only way to make this, which is right here, right now, possible for us. So this is where, like, yeah, we take the fruits, because otherwise it was for nothing, and it wasn't for nothing. It served its purpose. But, this is, again, we need to understand the meaning. There is a meaning. There was a purpose, even though right now we look at it and go, this is obsolete. It doesn't make sense. But it did make sense back then, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. People didn't know any different. So that's why, like, it's like that, looking at through the heart, we don't judge it. We can see it for what it is. And yeah, it might be noisy and ugly and dirty and distractive, but it served its purpose. It's serving its purpose. And yeah, and it's so funny because now we have literally from 1 to 6, we have all of them, right?
Yeah,
It's like
so
it's divinely guided. And it's the Lover's card, which is about the choice. And I mean, the next lunation, it's the new moon in Taurus. What are we going to be birthing based on what we're deciding now? It's always like that, right?
Yeah.
Like we get the opportunity to see, so then we can put this intention, these seeds, and make the new, just like every generation tries to birth a better version of itself. I want my child to have a better life. I want you to be smarter, to make something better of yourself. Like we always working on self-improvement, even though it might not look that way always, but we do. So yeah, and it's the balance, like you said, between the divine feminine and masculine, because both are needed
in harmony, to be harmonized. And so I think that we're getting ever closer to that coming in. And the more that we can hold that awareness when we can, where we can, the more we tip that scale. And that's really what it's about. And I also feel like with this, because of course, there's a million different ways you can look at it, and you can be a naysayer and you can feel like, oh yeah, so you're saying that was all for this or that. Going down those rabbit holes, I would argue, is a hollow. It's not going to get you where you want to be.
Victory at all costs.
So yeah, it's like, yeah, we can keep flying that flag and dying on that sword. But this feels like a timeout to turn our back on that old playbook and try something new. If you want to pick that back up and try it again, so be it. But I feel like why not allow this energy to come in and see what we can build with this? Because in the same way that we're understanding that our ancestors have done all of what has come to pass for us, what would we in turn tell our future generations about what we did with what we had? This is what we had to work with, and we chose to what? Did we choose to just ride it into the ground, blow it all up? Like, what did we choose to do with it? It's about the choice. And so looking back and allowing all that came to pass, what can we learn from all of those experiences? What can I harvest from all of that to help empower me to now turn to the future and build something different? And I wouldn't have that understanding had I not seen what's possible, what didn't work, but also taking from it what did work, or where there's a seed of potential that we can now build on and bring into fruition.
Yeah, there are so many multiple things that, that came for me through what you were saying. So first of all, like that guy, to me, he looks broken. He looks like he needs some serious healing over there. And I'm thinking, like literally I was getting this visual from the spirit Like if you, because like I said, we're doing this for the children. I don't have any, but you know, I can still connect with children. I have my nephews and so on. When we look at all these babies, whether they're from Iran, Iraq, Israel, Palestine, US, Canada, China, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. They look different, but who cares what they look like? They're all the same. They're innocent and they hold the potential, the seed for something different, right? So that's what I was seeing. You know, this man is like, okay, I've done enough of fighting, no thanks. And imagine that this guy would come down the stairs and he would see all these babies from different corners of the world, you know, and that is the hope. That is the hope, that they can grow into something different and make a different choice. And this is what they thought, our ancestors, that hopefully these kids will make a different choice, you know, that they don't have to go through the same we had to go through, right? But it's also, it literally is about that, you know, it is about that, that we had to go through all this to get to this point, to be able to make a new choice under all circumstances. Because the other thing that came to me was, and I mean, I am not a physicist and I don't understand the ins and outs, but you know, when Einstein created the you know, was it the nuclear, or it was some kind of energy, right? Einstein created this, one of these things that was then misused for weaponry, but that's not why he created it. He created it because he wanted to enable free energy, you know, and then it was misused. It was misused for, you know, weapons of massive destruction. But this is not when Einstein went to the lab. He was one of the smartest, most enlightened people alive, you know, with all the things that he created and said and what he represented, you know, this future Aquarius, right? He wanted people to feel more empowered, to be free. He didn't create something to kill the rest, you know, half of the planet. So this is also like what you were saying, that, well, now we know how this can be used. How about we use it for something different? So this is actually, it's so tying up beautifully together, and it takes us back to this balance, you know, the balance in the, yes, we need to take an action, we need to do these things, but how does it make us feel? You know, which is again about this. Yeah, you can go with the same argument. You don't know what they did to me and my land and my ancestors and la 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 la. But how does it make you feel? Do you want to feel this way for the rest of your life, and your children to carry the same grudge and feel the same way? So it's not about who is right and wrong, because none of this started with me or you or, you know, your dad. You know, none of this started with any of us, but us as the offspring has the opportunity to change it, because it didn't start with you, but you can change it. So this is the opportunity which I feel we are all experiencing individually and collectively, to make a new choice under all circumstances, because we know exactly where the old choice took us.
Yeah. It's really powerful. It's the seed of potential, and we're holding it in our hands. And what will we choose to do with it? Yeah, it's big.
And it literally is the Scorpio. Like I can really feel this Scorpio energy. Like it's really here. Like, you know, this, like, yeah, you go right deep, you know, you go where it hurts, just bring it all out. They need to feel it, you know. Like I really feel this, I really see that angel, you know, like really just exactly like Amanda was saying, solemn archangel Metatron. This is not a joke. This is not a joke where we are at as a humanity, but it serves its purpose, because now we know. So like you said, what we're gonna do with it?
It stings, but it's moving us. It's moving us to take action, and we're here. I'm here, you're here. Everyone that's seeing, we're here. And so now what do we do with this? And so it's really, like I said, it's beautiful, and it's messy, and it's all the things that is absolute change, transformation, and transmutation, you know, taking all of that and transmuting it into something of a higher vibration and potentiality.
Just like the childbirth, right? You've been through it, you know what it's like. It's one of the most painful, hardest, the messiest thing anyone can go through. But there is the other aspect of it, is the most miracles, beautiful, heart opening, you know. So it's all happening at the same time. It's the same experience. So that's literally exactly this. It's exactly the same. It's messy and painful, and yeah, and it tears your body apart, but the result is a miracle.
And there's a thing that's said that says, you know, it's Mother Nature is brilliant in its design, that it somehow makes you forget about just how messy and painful it was, so that you'll do it again. So it's like, you know, it's just enough that it's like, ooh, but you get this beautiful prize at the end of what you have birthed, this being. So what the notion of what we can birth on the other side of this is enough to persevere, to keep going, to do it again, but do it better.
But you see, there is that one aspect of it, which is you forget until you're just about to have the same experience again. You forget until you are back in that hospital just about to give birth. That's the moment you remember. And this is really, I feel, and I'm getting goosebumps, so Spirit is confirming, this is exactly where we are at as a humanity. We forgot. But now with we are so close to where we were before, whether it was Atlantis, Lemuria, world wars, whatever it was. We're so close. Now we remember. So we cannot not pay attention again. We go like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. But oh, now it's so close. I'm just about to pop this baby out. Now I remember what it was before.
Right. It's going to be go time. So what did we learn last time that we want to improve upon now for this experience, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such a great birthing is a perfect analogy. It's actually more than it's literally what we're doing. We're giving birth and we're going through those pains, these labor pains for sure. So yeah, it's all happening. So wow.
It's very powerful, very scorpionic.
It is. Woo. All right. Well, let's see. Let's cap it all off with an Oracle of Awakening. We've really been enjoying this from Melania Simone. Brought through such a beautiful message last time that literally just summed up all of our words. So that was really, I think, validating too, to really reflect back on. Just to feel all of that energy again. Let's see what's coming forward.
But if Scorpio full moon doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will.
Yeah. See.
And we love the triple moon goddess with the full moon.
Yeah,
the back beautiful. Of the cards.
Love the colors too.
Violet pill.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The ancestors are speaking. Sacred masculine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a beautiful card. Protective, active, inner strength. Okay, let's see. Here.
I'm really curious about the cactus.
That caught my eye. I was going to say, the cactus is the first thing I kept looking at. I almost said that. Woo! All right. The courage to challenge the status quo is the divine masculine arising within. The energy of the sacred masculine encompasses a balanced emotional state and is a protector of life. It is strength without domination and leadership without force. There is courage and power to create and manifest in a way that is caring and compassionate. We each have aspects of both the divine feminine and divine masculine in our bodies and our beings. Balancing the polar aspects into a unified whole is an aspect of our spirit work. The divine feminine and masculine represent an elevated frequencies that are available with unconditional love and non-judgment as we harmonize with our higher selves. Mila, over the last 5,000 years, humankind lived through the experience of the toxic patriarchy and the oppressed feminine. This is shifting as humankind expands into an understanding.
It's crazy, huh? This is Scorpio.
I don't know.
It goes right to the soul. It goes right to the soul.
Okay, we are, humankind expands into an understanding that we are not separate from our source or each other. The sacred divine masculine is awakening our hearts and minds to help us change the way we interact with each other and the earth. When this card comes up in a reading, it may be pointing for you to embrace the divine masculine within you or in another. There may be the need for forgiveness because of a distrust of the masculine as we have known it. The powerful energy of the divine masculine is being restored. And the affirmation, I tap into the divine masculine within to access courage and inspired leadership.
Right? I mean, that just sums it all up.
It really does.
It's
And
like
it's
an amen to that.
all right, guys, we'll see you next time. That's all.
Yeah, like literally, that's just like, it's just
Nothing else
yeah.
to see here.
Because it literally, this is why we have 4 moons in Capricorn in the year of number 8. That is strength ruled by Sun, but in numerology connected to Saturn and Jupiter. What have we learned so we now can expand and manifest?
Yes, and I feel like, and like for myself personally, and this is taking me back to some of our conversation before we hit record as well, this whole, the toxic masculine energy and the patriarchy does get a very bad rap. And, when I say Piscean versus Aquarian, I have a particular, perspective that I take on both, right? And so it does feel like there's this demonizing, or it's not all bad and it's served. And so there's this energy of we have to heal that and embrace that, because there's no going forward if we're not going there together in harmony. It's not about now it's our turn. And I don't mean that by men and women. I mean it by the divine masculine, the divine feminine. But it's like, that being a tool that we're being given, like you and I were saying, like how annoying, like the construction, the tools, and how, even like a masculine energy of like loving the tools, like, and like, I was trying to tell you about the home improvement, which is Tim Allen, the tool guy, who was always like, arr, 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 with his tools, like, and it's just this harsh energy that is like not something that is out of balance, but there's a serving from that we can pull from that and heal in order to turn and move forward in harmony. So it's interesting that these two land together here, which to me, this is really representative of that old energy, the victory, but at what cost, and the fighting, and all of that. And then this beautiful energy of the divine masculine coming into balance and harmony with the divine feminine. And there's a lot of hurt to heal. We're actually going back now. So now there's a lot of that heartbreak and loss to heal. And it's here in the form of a feminine energy that we're seeing. But again, it's all created this fertile soil from which the new can be birthed. So it just summarized everything we were saying. I mean, it's even talking about the last 5,000 years. I mean, it's literally what we're saying about, what's taking place here, which is just
It's
beautiful.
thousands of years. And it's because of the disconnection from oneself, disconnection from one another, disconnection from the source. And that's what made us feel so separate. And we were looking, searching, but all in wrong places, in the places outside of us that made us even more separate, and fell for all these different truths, these different stories that made us even more separate, and now we came to the climax point where it's like, well, you know what, this is not gonna cut it no more. And especially the way that the world is now so open and we all have access to everyone. Like, I have clients from all over the world, literally, I don't care if they from where they from, it makes no difference to me, because all these stories are so similar. We all just want to heal and move on and co-create a better world for all of us, where we are equal and able to be free to be ourselves and just live in harmony and peace. That's what I mean. And even this, again, the picture of the babies comes to my mind, because I know some people might, have the belief system. I don't particularly, buy into that some babies are born evil, they are born evil. That's the seed of the devil, whatever, rah, rah. I don't particularly believe that. I know that we can be born in all sorts of, because of the environment, obviously what the mother went through and all the rest of it. There is a certain frequency we born into, but I really feel that it depends how you take care of that seed. That's what it will grow up as. So is there such a thing as a bad, evil baby? Like, I don't think so, but it will become a mirror and reflection of its environment. So when we go back to that, I really feel that, you know, everybody incarnate is a divine being, is innocent, and is a full of potential. Which way that's gonna go? It's like the two wolves. Which one you're gonna feed, right? And it doesn't matter whether you are a female or a male or whatever you are, whatever you describe yourself is, because we all have this divine feminine and masculine in us, and it needs to be balanced. But, you know, just like what we were saying about what did we learn through these thousands and thousands of years, actually we can see that men wants the same thing. You know, men don't particularly want to dominate women anymore and treat us like slave. You know, like men also evolved a lot, just like women evolved a lot. So it's like, yes, you know, is one stronger than the other, or is one more divine than the other? No, they both are equal, they both necessary. But yes, we've gone through thousands of years of the suppression of divine feminine, because this suppressed divine feminine that was then traumatized and broken birthed a child that also carried the same wound, whether it was a female or a male, it doesn't matter. So now we came to the point where this all needs to be healed and balanced, and it doesn't matter where it started, who is it from, what is the story around it, and all the labels, you know, it doesn't matter, because like you said, the world we are co-creating and where we head in evolutionary, ready or not, this doesn't have a place there anymore. That's why Mars is in Pisces. Is the healing, give it back to source, so it can transmute, transcend, and be born as something different.
Yeah. There's so many layers there for sure. And I think it's like nature versus nurture and so many other things, but about that seed, that soul, that potential that it carries. There's a potentiality that it carries. And, you know, full circle back to the death card, shedding the skins of the soul is understanding that we're carrying that template, and within that seed is the potentiality for dark and evil and all of the things that have come to pass, all of the unhealed trauma that is passed on. That, you know, the idea that we're even having this conversation now to even have an understanding what that even means. Our answer, again, we go back to the consciousness just didn't exist before now to understand the symbolism of what it is to inherit that energy that needs to be healed. You know, it's something, and we can go over where it started and who did what and all the things, but again, that is not going to be, the juice is not going to be worth the squeeze for that futile stirring around of pointing fingers and trying to get back at what has already come to pass. It's taking what has materialized from all of that, what has come into fruition. We reap what we sow. So what we have now, we look at and we see what within this needs to be healed, stripped away, picked clean to the bone, shed those skins of the soul, because they're not coming with us into the new. And that's the greatest gift that we can give in all directions. Here in this place, to have the power in this moment to decide what to do with what is available. And so that gives the gratitude and the awareness of all that came to pass in order for me to have this in my hand, and it is bringing it forward into for the future generations. What did I do with it?
Exactly. And that's also what I keep saying, that our ancestors, like, and we were some of those, it's not like they separate from us, these old folks that are dead now. No, you and I, we played these roles too, you know, we were part of it, because it's all recycling, right? So like, this is like, I know from my personal reading, which, you know, you are privy to, that I had with the channel, this is what she said, right? There is all this keening and crying and the sorrow and pain because of all the sacrifice, and then they want like us to heal it. They want us to heal it by us healing ourselves. So that's why even when we keep saying you want to do ancestor healing, you don't have to go too far. Just look at your life, you know, you don't have to go too far digging, you know, because it's all manifest right here, right now. So that's what it is, you know. This is like what you said, like by us making a different choices, healing and understanding with our level of consciousness, which is not what they had. We have the gifts, we have the experience, we have the memory, you know, whether conscious or subconscious, but the level of consciousness has changed since those times of us being previously incarnated or whatever the ancestors, whoever they were, right? So this is the gift, and this is also the, not duty, but the opportunity, you know, is like our opportunity, you know, that they cheering on us and say like, yes, you can change it, because based on your level of consciousness as the next generation that always holds the cure for the wounds of the past, whether it will manifest and be actualized or not, but it is there, it's within the seed. We have the opportunity to heal the past. We don't even have to go back 2000 years ago or whatever, because we know everything coexists simultaneously. There is no linearity. That's just linearity is our 3D way of thinking, but this is also how I started looking at the charts. When I look at the new moons versus full moons, so now this Uranus Jupiter conjunction versus Uranus Jupiter conjunction 2010 2011, and you know, it's all impacting everything else that's happening right now, because there is no separation. So this is how we heal everything that came before and create a possibility and opportunity for future generation right here, right now, because of the choices we are making.
Absolutely. And something that you said in there about that we can recognize that the consciousness that was previously available and where we are now, does that open us up to the ability to consider beyond our own consciousness what could be possible? So the limitations that we feel, what feels so difficult, what feels so impossible, haven't we seen from the past? Can we know enough to know that this is not all there is either? So we can use that to open us up. Again, this fruition card with all the neurons firing off and things opening up, is even if I can't quite grasp what that new fruit is that I've never seen or heard of before, I can understand that it can exist. And I might never get to taste that fruit, but if I can hold that awareness that they didn't have, that I can now have because I saw what they didn't, their limitations can become my gift and ability to see beyond what is in front of me here.
Yeah, because I also feel like with regards to the level of consciousness, and now, you know, because of the Jupiter Uranus being on the forefront of our mind, that's what people like strive towards: material satisfaction, survival, you know, connection to people because of these things, you know, the lower chakras, survival, because that was the level of consciousness, right? But did it make them happy? You know, how many of them? It created more fear, like, oh, I have more to defend, more to protect, or whatever. But also, I know with the where US war was established, and now you had the Pluto return and, you know, all the rest of it, and we were talking about the French Revolution and stuff, which is, you know, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. If I'm not mistaken, that's when Uranus was discovered. And this is also what impacts the levels of human consciousness. We didn't know there was a Uranus. Neptune wasn't even discovered yet, and Pluto was only discovered in 1930. Chiron was discovered in 1977. I know that year because my ex was born that year. So we didn't know. We didn't know because we didn't have the awareness. We didn't know that planet was there, you know. But once we knew, we cannot unknown. One we know, we cannot unknown, and this is taking us beyond. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto is taking us beyond. And I know there are many, many, many new planets, dwarf planets, and asteroids and stars and whatever being discovered. And this is what creating this new awareness. Because when one person knows it already exists, we all know, even if we don't know. But it's the butterfly effect, 100 monkeys effect. Once it's discovered, once it exists in human collective consciousness, it's already there. It's already there, even if not everybody knows about these things, but it's there. And this is what's raising the potential for humans as a collective consciousness to make different choices, because we now know. We didn't know before. Prior to 1800s, you know, we didn't know Uranus existed. So awakening, what do you mean? What do you mean going beyond? What do you mean, you know, researching space? We need to survive. You know, we need to feed the kids, you know. That was all that matters, but now it's not enough. We didn't come here. We're not incarnated at this time and age with Pluto in Aquarius to just survive. It's not enough. We came to go beyond. We had enough of survival. It's part of it, but we hope that by now we mastered it. Now we're going beyond.
It's amazing, and it's like a whole nother we should do like a whole nother episode on that, because I feel like I just want to like dive in, but it's
that's what I mean. Stars and cards are getting more multidimensional.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna have to start doing dimensions versus episodes.
I know, right? Like, okay, well, this is what card comes up, and guy, if you want to dive deeper, tune into the next one.
Yeah, to the next dimension. Wow. Woo! All right. Well, it feels like we don't even have to wait too long to see, because it's coming right up this weekend.
Yeah, well, the Jupiter Uranus for sure, and then the moon is on Tuesday, right? On the day of Mars. Wow. Tuesday, the day of Mars.
Yeah. Wow. And we didn't even say that this is our last stars and cards with Mila in Mexico.
Well, right? Because maybe we don't know, right? Jupiter Uranus conjunction, who knows?
Expect the unexpected. Expect the unexpected.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess, so yes, by our ego planning, this is our last episode. The next one will be when I will be already in Europe, in Slovakia, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Let's remain flexible.
Yeah, we stay open, and like I said, expect the unexpected and be open to it, and be seeking out what it's coming up to show you, because yeah, we can look at it from any perspective. Is it a trash truck coming to clear away, or to ruin our day with noise and distraction? It's up to you how you choose to view it. And so I think we've got our highest and best guidance here on the one that's going to take us places.
Yeah, and I also feel, I always feel that when people understand the meaning and the higher perspective, the higher picture, it is much more bearable to, withstand and face the challenges we are experiencing being humans. Because like otherwise it's just overwhelming and it's just too much. But when we actually understand why this is happening, what's the purpose of it, and what is the potential of the other side of it, then people go like, okay, then let's just roll the sleeves up, let's do it, because we know that this already exists. We just need to bridge the gap.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
All right, Marisa, tell us, what are the news? What are the offerings?
Well, I'm going to offer this full moon in Scorpio reading for the empowerment pack. I had a special last time where you could do the twofer. I'm just going to do the other half of that. So if anybody wants to just get in on the empowerment pack reading, I'll be tuning into this weekend for the full moon in Scorpio. That's available at a very special price. I'm actually going to create a link that will be there to tap in, but it's $22 to get in on the full reading we're gonna do. I haven't chosen the spread yet, but we'll do a spread, and then you'll have personal card pulls as well for messages moving through this lunation. So that's the big one. That's a special. The link is going to be there for all my other offerings, color healings. I have some, seasonal things with spring cleaning and cord cutting, and then Marco Polo, my sharecast. Come on over there. It's free. I tap in for our collective energies every Sunday. I offer free personal card pulls for you. So please check that out if it speaks to you.
Yeah, and much more. Marisa is coming up with a lot of breadcrumbs recently. Well, I mean, always, but
like I said, I relate to this card. It feels like my crown. So more to come. So stay tuned if you're interested. Come over to the sharecast.
Absolutely. Well, and it is my birthday next week, so I'm considering making some special offerings. So stay tuned for that one. And for any further information, check out my social media at moonlightsoul369 and my website moonlightsoul369.com.
Awesome. Happy early birthday.
Thank you. So everyone have a great time. We hope this was helpful. Thank you, Marisa. As always, a pleasure. And until next time, hopefully on the other side of the Atlantic.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.